I've come to Houston, Texas, to the home of Patrick Ryan to see his world-class sports card collection. Can we see it?
Let's do it.
Patrick, tell me about this room that we just walked into. This looks like a card shop. This is amazing.
Well, thank you for being here and thank you for recognizing that fact. That was sort of my goal when I bought the house. I wanted to have a room dedicated to my memorabilia collection, and I wanted the first thing to feel like a card store from like 1994. But then as you kind of started diving in and realizing, maybe there's some treasures here that I wouldn't have found in my local card store.
Oh, there's a lot of treasures you don't find in local card shops. You've got an amazing array of jerseys and signed posters, of course, all kinds of cards on display. You've got sealed boxes. You've got Sports Illustrated magazines. You got all kinds of different interesting artifacts, a lot of pop culture stuff that lives in this room as well. I imagine this is a big talking piece for when you have people visit you, you show them the room. And I imagine you could spend hours in here just talking about all the different pieces in here.
Yes, it's a lot of fun having people come up here, especially with their kids, and getting to show them some history of sports memorabilia and sports collectibles. And it is funny, you quickly realize who is a collector as a kid because they won't leave the room. And that's certainly flattering.
Yeah, that's amazing. And we pulled out your top 100 most iconic cards. This is a collection that you've built of what you believe are, in your opinion, the 100 most iconic cards of all time. We've got them here. We're not going to talk in detail about every single one. That would make the video too long. But we are going to talk in detail about a handful that you've pulled out that are perhaps your favorite out of the top 100. Let's start with some of the older ones and let's work our way up to some of the new more modern stuff, I should say. And the oldest, this 1914 Cracker Jack Shoeless Joe Jackson. Love this card. Tell me about this one.
So this card to me means a lot because it was in a box of Cracker Jack. It was nestled between caramel and peanuts, and someone just stuck their grubby fingers into the box and pulled it out and kept it. Joe Jackson is uniquely rare. No one exactly knows why. There is some thought that maybe he was just a short print, but there's actually some suspicion that people destroyed their copy of it because of the 1919 Black Sox scandal. So for that, between the connection to the movie Field of Dreams, 8 Men Out, that card really crosses pop culture and then, quite frankly, gambling history. So, and then candy history. I mean, it crosses multi-layers.
Let's stick with the older era. The next card you see here is one of my favorite sports cards of all time. Talk about this.
So the 1948 Leaf Jackie Robinson, it is arguably his most iconic card. People might say they like the 52 tops or 53 tops. Aesthetically, those are better looking cards, but 48 Leaf's a fascinating set because of the fact that there's the same design for iconic football players. Babe Ruth is in the set. Ted Williams is in the set. You have, Joe Louis, the boxer. You've got some very memorable athletes from that set. So I do think 48 Leaf kind of stands on its own. You could have a collection of just 1948 Leaf cards, and you could argue it's a complete collection. And then this is the crown jewel. It's a PSA 8. I won it at Sotheby's Holy Grail. It's meaningful to me. My grandmother helped me fuel my card collecting as a kid. She'd take me to card stores. When she wasn't taking me to card stores, she was going to church. So the fact that auction was inside of a church.
Recently.
And I won it sitting behind Tom Brady. And it was a thrill.
That's a fun experience. Sometimes the stories of how you got the item, when you pair them with the item, it makes the item even more special. I'm sure we're going to hear some more of those stories. What's the next one here you pulled out?
So the next one is 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle.
I mean, you can't get any more iconic than this.
Correct. It's PSA 5. And I think the story there is that my first one was a PSA 1, upgraded to a 2, then I skipped 3 out of 4, and then I upgraded to a 5 recently. I'm not sure how far along my budget or my willingness on risk will take me, but I think I'd like to get to a 6 or 7 one day. So this is a nice 5, and I'm happy to have it.
So every time you buy a better grade, you sell the previous grade. And so essentially you say, I'm now at a point where I'm willing to put a little bit more money into this card, but I'm going to sell out my previous version of the card, buy the next grade level up, and then essentially, pay for the delta.
Historically, that's been the case. The 52 Topps Mantle is a bit of an exception because I have a PSA 2 that is a really nice copy. Unfortunately, I do have a big bill to pay at one of the auction houses, so I do think I'll be back down to one mantle in my collection.
Right now you got 2. I got you. What's next?
So skipping a couple decades, we're moving to the 1976 Topps Walter Payton.
Oh, and this one's a PSA 10. These are really hard to find in 10s.
Yeah, I think Walter Payton as a football legend, I mean, he has one of the best sports nicknames of all time, Sweetness.
Yeah.
That card is sweet. And I love having it. It's just, look, and that's one of those cards that what I like about collecting is if someone had a PSA 1 of that card, I respect that. That's a couple $100 card. That's, mid 5 figures, right? But the rarity of it makes it special to me. But I think what's cool is that's a card that's affordable for a lot of collectors. You just don't have to have a PSA 10. I like having the PSA 10.
Of course. and talk about perfect. This card has unbelievable centering, which is very rare on these. I don't see any print dots or defects of any kind. It truly is a perfect version of the card.
So there's people have that particular copy. It was suggested to me by one of the auction houses. I might consider trying to get in a BGS 10.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to play with the Kraken cross game
Sure.
with that particular one.
It truly
it is
looks
stunning.
perfect,
That is
though.
a stunner.
It's a stunning copy.
That's got to be a top 10.
That is really a
top
beautiful
10
copy.
of the exemplars, right? So I
Yeah.
could get NBA to put a sticker on it if I wished.
There you go. All right, let's keep it going.
So the next card's a 1979 OPC Wayne Gretzky PSA 9.
Oh, the classic. The great one.
The great one. And I think that the card's special for two reasons. One, it's a very high grade. I think there's only 110, maybe there's 210s. And I like the fact that it's OPC.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why this card lives in the case instead of the tops, is that OPC is part of collecting history. It was the different brand name for the Canadian distribution. So I think real hockey collectors, appreciate the OPC. Has edge issues. All the OPGs have like a frayed edge, and that is taken into consideration with the grading. Like it's sort of accounted for as a natural flaw. So if you see a clean OPG edge, it was maybe messed with.
Yeah. Your OPGs often sell for around double what the Topps cards sell for because of that, additional premium because they were the Canadian version of the cards. There are two, I believe, of the 1979 OPG PSA 10s. The last one sold for well over $3 million. I think close to $4 million maybe. So incredibly valuable cards. The 9s are also extremely rare as well. And this is a beautiful copy of a PSA 9 that you have here. So this is about as great as it can get with the card of the greatest hockey player of all time.
Absolutely.
Very impressive. Very impressive. All right, so we're in the late 70s now. Are we going to tip into the early 80s next?
Yes, but we're going to also jump into the mid 80s. So I want these two cards to live together.
Oh, well, that makes sense. This is quite the pair. Wow, 2 10s. This is really good stuff here. Talk about these.
Well, growing up, Montana to Rice
Yep.
was the connection.
Yep.
And it was the iconic connection. And so having those cards in the collection as PSA 10s, again, cards that is PSA 1s, PSA 2s, very affordable for pretty much anyone who collects. And I respect people that want to have those just to have, a connection to the history. The 10s are uniquely rare. And I do like these cards because they've been pretty stable. I did buy them before the big hype. Which is fortunate. And I'll say that, sometimes when people might think that Pat Mahomes or Joe Burrow kind of priced them out, maybe look at a low range mid-end Montana or Rice. It's a way to kind of connect to the football collecting game that's often overlooked.
It certainly feels safer. There's so much money being put into the ultra modern football cards these days, so much speculation on quarterbacks. And you had a line you told me yesterday, which was every time you had the urge to invest in a Jordan Love or a, Tua or Trevor Lawrence or Justin Herbert or whoever, you instead would take that same amount of money and go buy like a Peyton Manning card or, a card of one of a guy like Joe Montana or John Elway or Dan Marino, one of those types of guys.
Yep. It feels like a much safer way to enjoy the hobby.
It is. And these are beautiful cards. This 1986 Topps Jerry Rice card, this one's particularly iconic to me because that was right when I got into collecting as a kid. And I remember opening up packs of 1986 Topps football looking for Jerry Rice cards. And of course, they're extremely tough grades. The green border on these shows all the imperfections, shows, any type of edge issues, any type of corner issues. You sometimes had print dots on these cards. They were really difficult to find in good condition. And the 10s are exceptionally rare. And you've got a beautiful copy of that here. Absolutely stunning. All right, from one 80s legend to another, you've got a beautiful Michael Jordan 1986 Fleer PSA 10 copy here. Tell me about this.
Well, this one's a unique copy because it was actually a BGS 9.5.
Oh.
And yes.
That is rare. I've attempted to cross over multiple 1986 Fleer Michael Jordan BGS 9.5s to PSA 10. I've had zero success, but you had success with this.
Yes, this was 2018. It was sitting on eBay with a $13,000 buy it now. I offered 11.5. They accepted. They sent it, and it was all 9.5s. The surface had a 9. I cracked it out, and there was just a speck of dust. And I just, brushed it off. And then I sent it to PSA and got that fateful phone call from their accounting department. They said, we've got some really good news and some really bad news. Good news is your Jordan's a 10. The bad news is you owe us $3,500 in grading fees. And so that was pretty shocking. So it took it from I think at the time they were trading for like 25,000 to 30,000. So I basically effectively took 11,000 plus 3,500 and made quite the return if I would have sold it. I've owned other copies. I bought and sold a couple of them, but that one's going to stay in the PC because of the fact that I crossed it shaking with the bolt cutters, so, and that's also quite frankly part of collecting history, right?
You were bold to cut it out, to like actually crack it and submit it versus just trying to do a crossover. That's a bold strategy. That's awesome. That worked for you. I'm going to warn the audience at home. That is an unusual story. I do not necessarily recommend trying that strategy, but it's awesome that it worked for you, Patrick.
It was a lot of fun.
Super cool.
We're going to talk about the card that set elementary schools on fire. My elementary school banned this card, and this is the Bill Ripken.
Banned from your elementary school. I understand why. We have a little bit of language at the bottom of the bat there, but and this card has resurfaced recently in popularity again in the sports card hobby because Topps did a riff on this card this year with Jackson Holliday in his, Orioles jersey holding the bat. The rookie card basically set up the same shot here that you had with Billy Ripken. They didn't put quite the same words on it. They made it a little more of a pleasant, version of the card, but that was a short print. So the buzz around that card in this year's Topps, I think, caused some resurgence of interest in the 1989 version of the different errors of this card that existed in 1989 Fleer.
And I think that error cards are a fun part of the hobby, and I've got a couple that are well known. But what was interesting about that was that it showed that there were different printing locations. Each printing location, different printing company, quite frankly, handled correcting the error differently. Some did a white scribble, some did a black scribble. There's the black box, which I think is the most common. So I think it kind of highlighted the fact that these were like actual products. They were produced and they had to be fixed when that was that error. So Ken Griffey Jr. was new to the scene in elementary school. Like, this was the card we were all dying to find.
That's funny. That's awesome. And a PSA 10 too.
And I will say that, this is a sub $500 card. So we have $500 cards living in a case with $500,000 cards. And that's fun for me.
Yeah. It's as you said, you've put together in your opinion, the most iconic, the 100 most iconic cards. And I can totally understand this being one of them.
So the next card that I'm going to show, while again, not super valuable, is the first ever pack pulled autograph.
Interesting. So this one has a big place in sports card history. Today, obviously, autographs are chase cards, but they're in almost every single set. Every single box out there has a chance of getting an autograph card, but that was not the case back in 1990. This was actually revolutionary. Tell us about this.
So Upper Deck had a handful of athletes that they were considered Upper Deck athletes, and one of them was Reggie Jackson, who was a well-known signer on the autograph circuit at the time, and he signed a whopping 2,500 of them, which would be, and I think it's hand numbered. He didn't hand number them, but it's hand numbered to 2,500. What I would say is that in today's run, we'd be like, that's not a rare card. Let me tell you, these were ghosts. If there was one of these at one card show a year, people would flock to the dealer's table just to look at it. Because the concept of, oh my goodness, there was an autograph and a $1 pack of cards, it was magical. And obviously that kind of helped revolutionize the concept of adding value to pack pulled products.
That's amazing.
So another card that's on the lower end of things, but very iconic, and one of the most iconic athletes.
Oh yeah, I love this card.
1990 score, Bo Jackson, bat over shoulders.
Yep.
Now, fascinatingly, Bo will not sign that card because he doesn't feel like he got proper royalties for that particular image per its use on a Nike poster. He has a football card with the shoulder pads and bat that he actually will sign because he felt like he got proper royalties. So that aspect of it's fascinating. But this card, it has a border but nothing on the front, and the back just says Bo. It's a real statement. Also, 1990 score just has a lot of fun, cool cartoon, cool, photos. So I love 1990 score. And I think in terms of iconic sports cards for my generation, this was one that everybody chased.
Yeah, that is awesome. Wow. Yes, this was peak collecting era for me. And I remember like wanting this card so badly as a kid. It is just such a cool, iconic photo of one of the athletes from that era who is just, everybody wanted to be Bo Jackson when they were a kid.
Absolutely. Very iconic.
So you got some more 90s too?
Yes. 1989 to 1991. I could probably have 30 cards in here for a handful of reasons. So I've pared it down a little bit. The next one. So this card, people call it an error. I actually personally think it's more of a printing error or a misprint. It's not a traditional error in the fact that like it was a blatant mistake. It was like something that happened. It was a factory blemish, actually. So it's the Frank Thomas, no number as a
no name on front.
Yeah, no name on front. Basically, what happened is on the printing plate, something obstructed the black ink from hitting that part of the card. And I think the best part of that card was the lore of it. Was in 1990 when people realized some of these were coming out of packs. They thought it was hyper regionalized, and so I actually think it was maybe the Pacific Northwest where they thought this error was concentrated. So boxes were selling. Like if you were at a card show in New York, be like, this was a box from Seattle. So there's a higher chance that the Frank Thomas, no name is in there. And of course, I still don't think the mystery's really been solved. We did see a PSA 10 sell for nearly $150,000 recently.
It's crazy how people really flock to this error card in particular. And I think it's because there were a lot of people collecting during this time. I distinctly remember as a kid hearing about this error and trying to find boxes of 1990 tops so I could open them and see if I could pull the error card myself. So I think because there's a lot of people that have that memory as a kid and it probably made an impact on them. Today, they're willing to pay, in some cases, $150,000 for a PSA 10, of that card, which is incredible.
Yeah, it's a fun chase, fun story. And I think it's one of the most reprinted in terms of fraudulently reprinted cards.
Okay.
So do not buy a raw copy.
Right. Be careful. Yes. Interesting. Okay. All right. What do we have next?
So the 1990s spawned an era of innovation. So we had 1989 Upper Deck kick things off. Then we had 1990 Leaf. Then Topps had to kind of re-up their game. So 1991 Stadium Club. Ultra glossy set, great photography. And to me, this was arguably the most iconic card from the set. Nolan Ryan in a tuxedo, with his Texas Rangers hat. Nolan Ryan is a very important part of card collecting history because he had such longevity. And I just think that 1991 Stadium Club has a special place in my heart. And I do think it highlights that race to innovation that we started seeing in the early 90s.
Yeah, this is a super cool card. Stadium Club, obviously today, still a very popular brand today, and it's known for its photography. And you see that. You open up the cards and just beautiful photography that you don't see on other cards. And so the heritage of it is interesting, like seeing what they were doing back in 1991 and taking the most iconic pitcher, one of the most iconic baseball players from that era altogether, and to put him in the tuxedo and to, have that type of, photography studio type of image. Definitely something different, not something you were seeing back then at all. So I can see why this was such a game changer.
Yep. Speaking of game changing, the next card.
Okay.
1996 Topps Chrome Refractor, Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
Now look, we are skipping Topps Finest as a brand, which I love.
Oh, it's a 10.
Yeah. So this Topps Chrome really changed the game. Some interesting legacy or legend, I guess you should say, is that the Chrome patent, the process to make these chromium cards, Upper Deck passed on it. And the owner of the patent went to Topps. This is allegedly. And Topps was hesitant to do it because we already have this Topps Finest. And I don't know who the genius was at Topps. Said, well, let's just make a nicer version of Flagship. And ultimately, of the 1996 sets, the basketball is arguably the most important, and that means the Kobe. And apparently, because this was the first year of Chrome, there were some manufacturing defects, meaning that some of the cards green.
Yeah, a lot of them.
A lot of them green.
This one doesn't have greening on it, which
is
is
little bit,
just a tad
so look at
on
Tom,
the arm.
If you look,
but
at
it's really good shape.
The way to check is Tom Gugliotta's calf.
Okay.
So that if you're ever looking and trying to figure out eye appeal, Tom Gugliotta's calf is how you figure out how much greening there is. That's pretty light.
Yeah, you can see there being a little patch on his calf of green there in the front of the card. But I've seen a lot of copies of this Kobe 1996 Topps Chrome Refractor, and most of them have way more greening. Like Kobe's entire, basically his upper body, his arms, very, very green in color. And your card here is actually very much truer in color, just a tad of green, which is rare. This is a very nice copy of this card.
Happy to have it. And it's one of the most hotly debated topics of sports card nerds, such as ourselves, where they're all going to green. Like, so you can go on like blowout forums and there's like raging debates. No, you can stop the greening once you put them in a case or keep them out of light. I mean, but people are like, no, they're all going to green one day. So stop paying a premium for the non-green ones. So that debate amongst card nerds is a lot of fun to follow. Changing gears a little bit to the sport of boxing. And this actually would not be a card that most or many consider iconic because it kind of flew under the radar.
Truthfully, I've never seen this card before.
Yep.
So you've got me with this one. I would not have put this in a top 100 iconic. Talk to me about this.
So Upper Deck did something unique for a handful of athletes with this thing called the Master Collection. And what it was just featuring, and I think that Tiger has one, Gretzky, Jordan, and then Muhammad Ali. And I believe Ali was the first one. To me, what's so special about this card is that it's got 2 patches on it. Fight used robe from walking into the robe, and the fight, it's a Sonny Liston fight, and then the robe from that fight, and it's signed. So I feel like that this card, if this card came out today, I feel like it would be the hype of all hype.
Yeah.
And it just kind of gets buried in the history because it wasn't a pack pulled product. It was a set issued product. But for me, it's iconic because of the fact that it's Ali, and I think that he needs to be represented. And I don't love his quote unquote rookie. I don't love it the way I really like that card. And the fact that it has 2 patches that are fight worn.
Yeah, trunks and robe.
Trunks and robe, and it's signed and it's dated. So like that's where the personalization of building your collection comes in. Where for me, like I doubt, and there might not be another person on the planet that has this as a top 100 iconic card, but that's where the concept of making it your own comes in. So we're gonna move to a card that the design of the card's very well known. This particular version of the copy is a little bit harder to find, and that's the 2003 flagship LeBron.
Okay.
Gold.
Yeah.
And Topps did not have their systems perfect about how they were numbering things. And so there's flagship gold some years numbered to the year.
Right.
This one's numbered to 99.
Right.
And it's a Pop 7. So far, it's the only card that Nat Turner has expressed interest in my collection.
Yeah, so the 2003 Topps Chrome Gold Refractor is a card that gets a ton of attention, very high-end card. But what's interesting, in a PSA 10, that card is, I think, an 8. I think there's a Pop 8. You're saying this one's a Pop 7. So this actually, in a PSA 10, is as rare or slightly more rare than its Topps Chrome Gold Refractor counterpart.
Yes, and it's a fraction of the value currently, but who knows what happens when Topps gets the basketball license again. There could be some nostalgia factor for this particular card. So anyway, because it's so rare and LeBron has so many standout rookies, that one's kind of set alone in my collection as my favorite LeBron. I have a fairly extensive LeBron collection, and I think we'll talk about probably the best known LeBron card.
Let's jump into that. Is that this one right here, your exquisite rookie patch?
Yeah, the exquisite rookie patch. And what I love about it is some people notice this nuance. Is you look at the patch and you're like, that's not a stitched jersey. That's an iron-on jersey. That seems, what happened here? Well, go back and look at some of the rookie photo shoots of LeBron, and he's wearing an iron-on Cavs jersey. So what I love about exquisite is from this particular year is that it's photo shoot worn jerseys. So that was worn during the photo shoot, the rookie premiere, where they kind of go to the NBA and they kind of learn all these things about being an NBA player, and they do all these shoots for media images and sports card images. So if you look on a handful of his cards, the patch from this card is visible on all these other cards, which is pretty fantastic.
Yeah, and that's a nice patch too. You got a 3-color patch there. 8.5 is a nice grade on that card. Strong autograph as well. That's a very nice copy of that exquisite.
And some people ask me if I want to cross it over to PSA. And my thought is that at the time when this card was graded, when this card came out, PSA didn't have a thick enough holder.
Right.
So when you look at LeBron's 2003 Exquisites, the vast majority are in Beckett holders because that was the only shop in town that could handle the card of that thickness. So I think that's also part of the legacy, is the story of grading and evolution of grading. And so for me, that LeBron being in a BGS holder, even though it is one of the lone BGS cards in the case, it feels right.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I notice you have a soccer card over there, and I would agree that this is one of the most iconic cards. If people don't agree today, just wait 20 or 30 years, and this, in my opinion, will be one of the most valuable sports cards in existence. Talk to me about this.
So the Messi Mega Cracks. Mega Cracks is not necessarily a brand that, rolls off the tongue and is very well known in the States, but internationally it is the brand because they've made soccer cards for such a long time. The Messi card in high condition is really hard to find. I think the pop's under 20 for that particular one. There's some issues, particularly around the fact that there's some that are shorter. And some people argue that it's shorter because that was just a manufacturer's defect. Some think it's shorter because it was trimmed. So BGS is actually a little bit looser in terms of how they define that issue. PSA is extremely strict. So it has to be a full size. Everything's got to be crisp and clean, and that's why that's an exemplary copy.
Yeah, it's very difficult to find a PSA 10. These very rarely come up. I think the pop on this is around 20 or so, but you almost never see them come up for auction. I keep an eye on these because this is actually a card that I believe is a great long-term investment. The rookie card, the only rookie card that is considered the true rookie card. There were some other mega cracks from this year, but this is considered the true rookie card, PSA 10. I love this as a long-term investment. So I've been watching to see these as they come out on the auction block, and they're pretty few and far between. And when they do come, they sell for a ton of money.
I think that was the last public sale 18 months ago, so it's that rare.
Well, I bid against you, but you bid over the top of me, so, and rightfully so.
So next we're going to skip to we're actually, jumping far ahead. 2015, the Cup.
Okay.
And this is Connor McDavid.
Okay. So now we're getting closer to this ultra modern era.
Yes.
And this is the most, I would say, the most iconic hockey card from at least the last few decades. This is a huge chase card for any hockey collector.
Yes, and the Cup has had manufacturing problems of late. It's coming out like 2 or 3 years late because they do use, like, if it's dated, the product date is the patch dates in the product for the most part. So like it just takes a long time to manufacture. This is arguably McDavid's, most iconic rookie. It's just an awesome looking card, and the Cup is unique to hockey. So I think that's why it kind of stands as a special card in this, my Run a Collection.
Yeah, and for those out there who aren't big hockey collectors, this is kind of the equivalent of a Flawless or maybe a Topps Dynasty for baseball, National Treasures. This is these are the RPAs for hockey that people most covet. So like the National Treasures RPA number to 99 is obviously very coveted for football cards or basketball cards. And this is your equivalent of that over in hockey, number to 99.
Yep.
Yeah, it's incredible.
So in terms of the manufacturing of cards and the innovation of cards, the next card was from a very unique set, Topps Now. So in 2016, Topps created this product called Topps Now to release an on-demand set. Mm-hmm. And this was the final card from the 2016 set because it's the World Series. Its nickname in the community is the Brizzo, Chris Bryant and Anthony Rizzo. And this card, I think, sold out in minutes. I regretted not getting it when it went live on Topps.com. It was watching the World Series very late into the morning, and then I think it was released like just a couple hours after the game ended, and the Cubs had ended the curse and had sealed the World Series. So for me, this card has a lot of special aspects to it. It's got a piece of game used base in it. It's dual signed. It's got the image of Rizzo celebrating after the game. And this is a card that I consider a bit of a ghost. While there's versions numbered to 99 and 49 and I think 5, depending on the quality of patch of base, the people that have these, they rarely come up.
I would imagine that's the case because I imagine there's a lot of Cubs collectors who winning this World Series was a once in a lifetime, literally a multi-generational event. And for those hardcore Cubs collectors who got the opportunity to get one of these cards, I imagine there's probably no price they would sell it for because it's connected with one of the greatest memories of their life.
Yeah, that base was on the field, which I think is uniquely special. And again, you've got Cubs collectors, you've got Topps Now collectors, you've got people like me who want a piece of that history. And I think from card collecting history, that's probably the most iconic Topps Now card to date.
Incredible. Awesome. All right. What do we have next?
So moving into 2017, so I got back into the hobby in 2013, but then really started kind of buying with an eye towards investment in 2017 and an eye towards ripping. 2017 Topps Heritage just had a hold on me, and I was buying blasters. It was the first ever case that I'd bought, and I ripped a case of Topps Heritage, and I actually was fortunate to pull the Aaron Judge auto.
You pulled this card.
I actually sold it.
Okay.
And I regretted it.
And then you bought another copy of it.
So I bought another copy.
Fair enough.
For probably 3x what I sold that one for. But Topps Heritage, I feel, is a very unique and special set. It's got the real one called the Real One autographs, which I think are arguably some of the players' most significant autographs most autographed rookies that have them. You've got the throwbacks. And what's funny about the throwbacks is it could be in a Topps blaster, and some casual collector doesn't realize the player wearing a throwback uniform is an extremely rare card. Chrome cards are inserted into regular boxes, chrome refractor, gold chrome refractor. So I think that Topps Heritage just combines the legacy of that particular set, 1968 Topps design, which is beloved, the burlap sack. And then you layer in modern things like autographs, chromium, rare serial numbers. And I was just addicted to opening 2017 Topps Heritage.
I love it. That's super, super cool.
We've talked a lot about innovation, and 2003 Exquisite was one of the most innovative sets in terms of developing the premium market. The second set, I've got a card from that year, the first ever dual Logo Man signed.
Signs. Interesting. So this is how that all started. Today you see, the signed Logo Men or the chase cards. They're the one of ones in high-end products. The first signed Logo Men ever came from 2004 Exquisite, and this is one of them.
For the dual version.
Right.
And that one is special to me, having lived in Houston, Texas, and when the Rockets had back-to-back championships, because people felt that Hakeem was slighted when David Robinson got the MVP that one year. So this is a true rivalry card.
Yeah, that's incredible. You're talking about two of the greatest big men ever to play the game. Hakeem is just, people think of Hakeem in the 80s and the 90s. And of course, David Robinson came along, right at the end of the 80s and, played throughout the 90s and beyond. What a, both big stars from Texas. What a duo to have. And this is back when you had these patches on cards. They were truly game used. They were truly collector's pieces. This is a beautiful copy.
Very, very fun one to own.
Yeah.
We've talked a little bit about innovation. We've also talked about brands. 2009 was an interesting year in the sports card world because Panini was granted a license, and their best known set, I would argue, from that year was National Treasures. And here we have a Steph Curry National Treasures.
Oh, yeah.
This one, they had numbered to 99, and some people think the number to 99 is the true RPA. I'm happy to own a copy numbered to 25, considered the gold parallel version. And that card really stood out to me because the quality of signature, quality of patch. And when I won it in auction, it was in an authentic holder. And I think that scared some people off from bidding. So there's a chance that some people, if they don't like low grade, 6 might not be a good grade for a 2009 card. But I think due to the uniqueness of the thickness of the patches, you have to get what you can get. So I sent it in a PSA for review, came back a 6. I posted it on my Instagram stories and was offered $35,000 more than I paid, simply because it went from an authentic holder to a PSA 6 holder. We talked about me cracking out my Jordan BGS to PSA 10. Look, I'll take risks in the hobby. Don't recommend everyone doing that. But in this case, it certainly paid off.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a beautiful card. Like, you're looking at the front of it, it presents extremely nicely. It doesn't present like a 6. It presents like a really crisp new copy of this card. So it's the eye appeal on it is certainly very, very high. Nice patch, multicolor patch. Some of the copies of this card, the patch shows a lot more of the background blue, not as interesting. It's a nice, interesting patch. There's a lot of eye appeal to this copy.
And it is a photo shoot worn patch. So again, rookie photo shoot. And I like that legacy because it ties well to the 2003 LeBron Exquisite, which was a photo shoot jersey as well.
Super cool.
Yep. One of the most popular brands today is Topps, Allen, and Ginter. And there's a few passionate collectors that have done countdowns and highlighting some of the most iconic Ginter cards. What I think people like about it is that there's non-baseball players in it. And for the first time ever, I think maybe this might be the only time we'll ever have in history, a pack pulled presidential signature on a card. So arguably the most iconic signed pack pulled Ginter framed autograph, President George Bush. And it's not just that it's President George Bush, it's from the iconic image of him throwing out the first pitch after 9/11.
Yeah, what a huge historical moment, not just for baseball, but also for the entire country. And so to have that on a card and then to have his autograph on it, I understand why this is what you consider to be, one of the most 100 iconic cards in your collection, especially with you living here in Texas.
Yeah, and so, kind of similar to the Hakeem David Robinson, it means a little bit more to me because of the Texas connection.
I see a huge football card sitting next to me here, the 2017 Prism Patrick Mahomes Gold, numbered to 10, the true gold of Mahomes Prism rookie card. This is a grail card for any Mahomes collector. How did you get this?
I won it at an auction with PWCC. The bidding was very aggressive, but I think the timing was right. The card's definitely appreciated based on the offers in my inbox. And I would say that the Mahomes collectors are a different breed. I think they're special. It's cool. They track his big cards. So it might have a honing device on it because everyone knows where all the Mahomes golds are. There's two big collectors that are after this. One, Mahomes collectors. And then secondly, there are a couple guys chasing the golds of every key rookie. So of all the cards in my collection, this is the one where I get the most inbound requests to sell. And quite frankly, it is a little tempting.
I'm curious about this next card, 2018. This is one of your home state guys here. Talk to me about this Luka.
Well, that's arguably the card that set the pandemic collecting world on fire. Luka has a special place in my heart because of what he meant for my collection. In 2018, I went very heavy on Luka as an investment. And I don't always do that, but I'd kind of dabbled in the Giannis market when I got back into collecting in 2013. And the mistake I made was I just didn't buy enough. I sold cards for 5x what I paid and then it being up 20x. And so I said, the next time I've got a hunch, I'm going to go really deep. And it was funny. We were all ripping, this wax. It would have been Christmas time of 2018, going to Target, buying blasters. They were just sitting on the shelf for $19.99. And then everyone's sending them into grading. And by April or May of that year, the market was flooded. PSA 10 base Lukas were selling for $45 to $60. So rather than selling after having waited all this time to get my cards graded, I think I bought around 300 of them. I also bought some true blues, some reds, some autographs. At one point I had 30 silver PSA 10 Lukas. And my cost basis for this Luka collection was probably right around $30,000. And by the time I got done selling it during the peak, I think I netted close to $400,000. Wow. So Luka I owe him a lot of this box is due to my Luka investment. And I just felt like, what's a cool card to hold from that? Look, if a gold comes up for sale, I'll be very interested in it. But the cracked ice was one of the newer parallels. And it kind of, I don't want to say it's one of the crazier parallels, but there's just so many of them now. The cracked ice is sort of a jersey color match. It's numbered to 99. It's a PSA 10. So this is definitely a tip of the cap to 2018 Prism and what Luka meant for my collection.
I like it. It's a beautiful card. Okay, so we've gone through a smattering of the cards from your 100 most iconic. There's another set, another type of cards that you collect separate from your top 100 that you also have an incredible collection of, and that is signed on-card autos, particularly rookie cards. You've got some amazing ones going back to vintage cards and everything in between, modern ones, of getting, hand-signed autos. I want to show the audience some of your best ones of this as well, because I think people are really going to love to see this. And I want to start with this Michael Jordan 1986 Fleer sticker autograph with such a nice auto on that card.
So I was an autograph hound, hanging out at team hotels, over the Astrodome dugout, harassing players for autographs. It's how I met my business partner, Iggy. It's how I met some of my best friends. And when we were chasing autographs, we mainly got 8x10 signed, maybe Sports Illustrateds, maybe some cards, but it was blasphemy to get a rookie card signed. And so when I was a kid chasing autographs, I just never got rookie cards signed because I was just considered an apropos, thing to do. Well, in 2013, I went to my first national and I was shocked at the number of signed and slabbed rookie cards. And what became apparent to me was the concept of grading made it clear that, a 1983 Topps Wade Boggs in a PSA 8 isn't that valuable. So why not get those cards signed? So the 2013 National, I bought a small handful, 1987 Topps Barry Larkin signed, 83 Topps Wade Boggs, just a small little collection of signed rookie cards because it was like the forbidden fruit of an autograph chase. And I was like, oh my goodness, these cards I loved as a kid, now they're autographed and they're in these cool slabs. And then a couple months later, this popped up on eBay. And at the time it was $2,000. And I remember telling this to my business partner, because firstly in 2013, $2,000 was a ton of money personally. But I was like, it just looks so good. And I've kept it in the original blue flip because that's how I bought it. And I think that's part of the grading legacy was that pack pulled autos went in red flips and then aftermarket autographs went in blue flips. And so that's why I've kept it in this particular
And we're back
case.
to that again. PSA went away from that for a while, put everything in red flips, but now they're back to putting, blue flips. If you're just getting the autograph authenticated, they're putting it in blue flips. So it's, I love the historical nature of that. But speaking of historical, let's go back in time and let's look at some vintage on-card autographs that are going to blow the audience away. And let's start with the 1952 Topps Willie Mays, signed by Willie Mays with an auto grade of a 10.
So this was a recent pickup. These are becoming harder and harder to find. I think there's collectors such as yourself and myself.
Oh, I love these.
Right.
Yeah, I buy a lot of them.
So I think that yes, you want to have an iconic unsigned collection, but then this adds a level of allure to it. Willie Mays held this card and put pen to paper.
Yep.
So the true connectivity to the athlete exists here. Now, look, I might try to upgrade this one day. He didn't sign it in the most visible place. Some people want ballpoint signatures on these vintage cards, but for my first signed 52 Topps Willie Mays, this was a nice start.
Yeah, it's a beautiful start. And then let's go the next year, 1953 Mickey Mantle, very nicely conditioned Mickey Mantle, good signature on that.
So 53 Topps is arguably the best design from the 1950s of Topps. At least they thought so much that they made the Topps living set based on the 53 design, not the 52 design. This is a gorgeous card, but I will probably sell it one day if I have the chance to upgrade to a 52 Topps.
That'd be nice.
Because everything else in the case is a rookie or maybe 51 Bowman. So arguably this is a bit of an oddball, but it's a good placeholder for Mr. Mantle.
It's beautiful. How about Pele? Pele, we saw a Messi card not signed earlier, but Messi's iconic rookie. This is considered one of Pele's rookie cards generally. And this one, though, is a signed copy with an autograph grade of a 10.
Yes, and I think that this card presents very well because it's a bigger card. The Affligo bat, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right. It's a smaller card. I don't think the image is good. So I think long-term, the Aquarella are going to be the ones that kind of catch collectors' eyes. And so I won this in a heritage auction. And I'll say that the debate between Pele has a handful of 1958 cards, which is kind of crazy to think about, but they won the World Cup. And so that's why I think he was celebrated. Some people want the cards that were made in Brazil because that's where his team was from. Some want the cards that were made in Germany because that's where the game was played. Personal preference. There's a handful of affordable versions of Pele's 1958 cards, but this one really is a standout due to the quality of signature.
1961 Fleer, one of the best designed basketball sets in my opinion. Iconic set, iconic design. A lot of Hall of Fame players. One of them, Jerry West, the logo, as he has inscribed on that card.
Yes, this card presents very nicely with the inscription down at the bottom. Jerry was uniquely fan-friendly. If you ever got his autograph at a card show, he would ask you questions. He was very engaging. He recently passed, which is very sad, but the design of this card, it's almost like it was built for the autograph. And I did get the sign in person myself at a Ryan Fitterman show, and I had him sign the inscription. So it's a very nice one.
So talking about legends who recently passed, absolute legends of the game, 1963 Topps, the Pete Rose rookie card with a Hit King inscription.
So a lot of people don't love the fact that some of these rookies in the 1960s, they had to share their card with other players. Some people might even prefer the 64 Topps Pete Rose, but this is the more iconic card generally. And so I think to make it more his, you'll see versions where he signs just under his face. I asked him, this was at a Ryan Fitterman show, to sign it boldly across the middle, then add Hit King. And so it's much more of Pete's card. This card's special because Pete Rose is the autograph king. So it feels very fitting to have an autographed Pete Rose card in the collection.
Yeah, he did a lot of autographing. Another baseball star from the 1960s who also had a shared rookie card, Nolan Ryan, and you've got a big inscription on this one.
So again, trying to make the card more about Nolan, had him, his 7 no-hitter, strikeouts, his Hall of Fame year, just to fill in the card and make it a little bit more personalized to him since he is sharing it. What's nice about Nolan, he's a very easy signer through the Nolan Ryan Foundation. So if you Google Nolan Ryan Foundation, there's an address and instructions, and you can send him cards or balls or whatever you want to get signed. And he doesn't charge a premium for signing rookies. And so I think that's a nice element that, whether it be his 1991 Stadium Club or his 1968 Topps, you can get your own Nolan Ryan card signed, and it benefits his foundation, which does a lot of great work in the community.
One of my favorite basketball players to watch highlights of, Dr. J. Love the design on this 1972 Topps card, and that's a really nice autograph with an auto grade of 10.
Yeah, so this is in the collection because it is such a high grade, an 8.5. I think there's maybe a couple 9s. Dr. J is a great signer, very friendly. And what some people take for granted this card is that this is an ABA card. It's the Squires, not the 76ers. So I think you can get Dr. J to inscribe some of his ABA accomplishments or some of his NBA accomplishments. This is a copy without those inscriptions. I do have copies with the inscriptions, and that's always a tough debate. Like, how much do you want to fill up a card? This card I do think presents very well because of the crispness of the card itself.
Yeah, it's a beautiful card. Speaking of Dr. J, he shared in 1980 a very important card, one of the most iconic cards in sports card history, alongside Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, and it was considered Larry Bird and Magic Johnson's rookie card. So what an incredible card this is, and you've made it more incredible by having all 3 of them sign the card on card, and it's got an auto grade of a 10.
So a couple of the cards, this is one of them where I've got copies in the rookie signed card case and the iconic case. This one's one of the ones that lives in both. The PSA 7 presents very nicely. To me, what's important is the consistency of the pen, is that I'm fairly certain it was actually the same pen for all 3 signatures. So for me, the eye appeal is kind of off the charts because of that.
Yeah. Wrestling. We haven't seen a wrestling card yet, and if we're going to see one, this is the one to see. 1982 Hulk Hogan, and you've got a beautiful autograph on there.
So Hulk Hogan, if you've been at the National when he's been there, when he shows up. The crowd goes nuts. He is the biggest draw in sports entertainment to this day, in my opinion. Maybe The Rock, arguably. Hulk Hogan has 2 debatable rookies. Some say the 82 Wrestling, some say the 85 Topps. Personally, I like them both. 82 Wrestling was via set form. 85 Topps was pack pulled. I have copies of both, which I'm very fortunate of. I think the yellow border, him known for that kind of yellow Hulkamania, this card just looks like Hulk Hogan with the mean stare and the Fu Manchu, and the autograph just fits perfectly on this card.
It's an awesome card. This next card is one that has really captivated the attention of the sports card hobby over the last year. The 1984 star Michael Jordan. The debate rages on as to whether this is actually Michael Jordan's true rookie card or if it's the 1986 Fleer. I think more people are now accepting of this 1984 star as his true rookie, and you've got a really beautiful copy of the card autographed by Michael Jordan right here.
So this was one of my first big purchases after that 86 signed Fleer. So I think I bought this in 2016 for around $7,000, which at the time seemed nuts. It was in a BGS 7.5 with a 10 auto. I preferred in the PSA holder. I do think it's a 9 auto. There is a little bit of a skip in there. And look, we know PSA is harder on these cards than Beckett is. The main reason I crossed at the PSA is that the card was signed at his flight school camp, where a lot of the Michael Jordan on-card autographs came from. Beckett, because of the UDA certificate being tied to the flight school, it was slabbed 2011 flight school. It's not slabbed 1984 star. And I was like, is there any way for me to get you guys just to put the different slab on it? And Beckett refused. So I didn't want the car. It kind of looked like a reprint in the saying 2011 flight school as the lead designation. So anyway, thrilled to have this in a PSA holder. One of my more favorite cards. And again, kind of like the Hulk Hogan yellow, the red border. And I like the black ink personally on this particular copy. Maybe I'm biased because it's mine, but certainly love this one.
Yeah, that's really, really neat. 1986 Fleer, the iconic set, one of the iconic players, maybe rookie, depending on if you're going to count the star stuff or not. Charles Barkley, you got a nice auto of him there.
And what's nice about this card is that Barkley has not done a sit-down signing in forever. Now, if you get to Charles, when you see him, two things will happen. He'll either tell you he doesn't sign cards or he doesn't sign. Maybe once in a blue moon after a nice gambling streak, he'll be in a good enough mood to sign something. He's not signing cards right now. So look, we've seen guys like John Stockton who didn't do signings, Ewing didn't do signings, Malone didn't do signings. Will Barkley do a signing? Yeah, at some point, but you just never know. So happy to have picked. I've actually gotten one of these signed in person myself, not this particular copy, but with Charles, he's unique to this because he hasn't done sit downs.
1987, another big year of collecting for me as a kid. And that 1987 top set, the iconic set with the wood border and the card that so many people were chasing from that set, the Barry Bonds rookie card. What a cool card to have signed by Barry Bonds.
Yeah, and I will say that Barry was actually a pretty good signer if you got him in his playing days. He is another guy who's not done a paid signing in a long time. I actually talked to Barry about his autograph market. I was a guest of a VIP event by the San Francisco Giants, and I got to talk to him afterwards. I've got the photo somewhere, but I was like, there's massive demand since the card boom. And he was just kind of like, well, apparently there's going to be more and more demand the less and less I do it. And I was like, you might want to kind of sell into the demand. He's actually an entrepreneur in the tech space. So I just think he's a little bit distracted. I do think Barry, because his relationship with Ken Golden, he will do a sit down. But again, I like having this for the time being. And if he does do a sit down, maybe I add an 86 Fleer update, an 86 Topps traded, maybe get him to sign one of the Tiffany versions. But for now, this is a very good representation of particularly the yellow batting helmet card. I'm happy to have this one.
All right, we've just got a few more cards to go. Mike Tyson, a man of the moment. Obviously, a lot of interest in Mike Tyson recently with his fight with Jake Paul. And that's his 1987 Panini Super Sport signed by the legend.
Now, one day I do hope to get an 86 Super Sport. Those are a little bit more rare, although they look identical. Look, Mike is one of the most iconic sports figures of all time. His ups and downs personally and professionally, I think most of us can relate to that. I certainly can. And so this is just a great testament to the fact that, go outside of the norms of the four big sports and there's legends within, boxing, golf, wrestling, et cetera, et cetera. And Mike's certainly on that Mount Rushmore of collectible non-major sport athletes.
The most iconic card of my childhood, the 1989 Upper Deck Ken Griffey Jr., and you've got it in a really cool, like a light blue paint pen. That's a really neat signature for that card.
Love this one. Look, there's 1010 copies. I've not seen a 1010 in the light blue paint. I was very fortunate. My friends at TriStar handled the paint pen exquisitely. I sent in a very nice copy. I actually think this was a raw copy, and I didn't know the grade till it came back from PSA. This card presents very well because the blue Sharpie just kind of bleeds into the turtleneck. Obviously, we talked about in the main case, I've got the PSA 10, but I thought that it'd be fun to show the signed version because of the uniqueness of this paint pen and how well it presents.
Yeah, I really like that. Unlike quarterbacks from today, Peyton Manning actually did not have very many rookie autograph cards at all, right? I think just contenders might have.
And I remember Topps. He has a Topps, one where he's holding the jersey.
Yes, he does. But only a few, a few sets, and they were very, very limited. So to have a Peyton Manning rookie auto is special. That one's one that you had autographed. That didn't come, from the set autograph that way. But that adds a lot of rarity and uniqueness. Tell me about that card.
Well, look, I know some people will say it's blasphemous to get this rare of a card signed, but for me, he doesn't have a ton of pack pulled autos, and I just think this card looks gorgeous signed. Also, Flair to me was a different level of quality when it came out. 1994 it was had its own special box. Every pack was like a pack inside of a pack inside of a pack. So Flair as a kid means a lot to me. And I just think this card just the hollow foil, the dual image, and the autograph's just basically perfect. And again, I'm almost positive this is a pop one, and most people will be screaming the fact that I got such a rare card. So I'm my collection.
Right. Do what you want, right? That one was numbered to 100, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tom Brady, 2000. Now, Tom Brady's known for his contenders rookie ticket auto, but here you've taken his Bowman card and had him autograph his Bowman, which makes that one very rare.
It's funny when Tom Brady was with TriStar, the prices to send into him were very high. But you could send in cards and you could send in tickets. And I remember we always could turn back time. You could send in a Tom Brady rookie card. I think it was about $1,000, whereas you could get a mini helmet signed for $500. So it was quite a premium. I didn't send any in. Now with Fanatics, you can't send in cards. And if you send in tickets, they're like close to $5,000. And look, that's their right. They have the right to maximize their athletes and create scarcity. I bought this on eBay recently. I think it was in a BGS holder. It was actually an authentic. And it's kind of interesting. A lot of people prefer authentic for the card grade and then a numeric auto grade. Because again, back in the day, we were just getting banged up cards signed. Now that there's been more collectability, more eyeballs, I think that the numeric grade is becoming the standard. And that's why, quite frankly, a lot of these were not numerically graded. And I had them crossed to getting number grades on them.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. You can actually add value sometimes by doing that. This is another iconic card in the sports card hobby. Not a rare one, but having the autograph obviously makes it much more rare. The 2001 Upper Deck Golf Tiger Woods card.
Yeah, and why don't we talk about the next one too?
Yeah, so we've also got his 1996 SI for Kids, which is really his more elusive first card that a lot of people love to chase. You've got that one autographed as well.
So again, much like Hulk Hogan, much like Michael Jordan, you have a non-pack pulled card that many argue to the death is the rookie. And then you've got the pack pulled card. I personally think the 96, because it's so much before 2001, is the rookie. These are extremely rare because again, Tiger hasn't done a signing where you can send in what you want. I recently learned over the last couple of years that oftentimes there's meet and greet opportunities through athletes foundations. My stepfather adores Tiger Woods. So as a present, I got a meet and greet opportunity through Tiger Woods' Tiger Jam party in Las Vegas. So we got to meet Tiger and I had him sign a couple cards for me. He was very gracious. Yes, it spent a lot of money to get in that access and get the photo with them and get the autographs. But quite frankly, it's probably worth it. I could actually probably sell one of these to cover the entire experience. I won't because I need these for my collection. But that was a thrill. My stepdad getting to talk to Tiger Woods for a minute, getting the photos, and then Tiger being so gracious with the autographs was a true thrill. And then we had a night out in Vegas. That was a lot of fun.
That's a great story, as one of those great stories about collecting. We're down to our last card. Then I got a ticket that I want to show the audience that's going to blow their mind. But the final card, the one that we put for last, because this one has a lot of significance to you, plus extreme rarity. Talk to me about the Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson autographed card here.
So firstly, the card itself was not really well known until the pandemic craze and people had time to go digging through the crevices of the internet looking for rare cards. And I think at one time, the PSA 10, I bought a PSA 10 for $1,000 and sold it for $10,000 unsigned, right? And then I think at one point got to like $100,000. Now it's back down probably to $10,000 to $15,000. But signed copies are uniquely rare because again, The Rock, I don't think's ever done a paid signing. Certainly not one where you could send in what you wanted to get signed. Again, charity meet and greet opportunity. I won an auction via one of the places that does these fundraising auctions, and I got to meet him ahead of an XFL game. He was uniquely gracious. I had him sign 2 debut tickets and then 3 of these bumblebees. I think there might only be 10 signed bumblebees in existence, and I've got 3 of them because he was so nice to sign them. And I think this is the highest graded copy of the 510. And again, this is one that's kind of one of those quote unquote coffin cards this copy is going to be getting buried with me.
Yeah, that's super cool. All right, let's show the audience a ticket. You collect all kinds of different things, right? We concentrated today's show on your cards, but there's many other elements of your collection. One of those elements is tickets. Talk to me about this extremely rare ticket right there.
So while there's debate about what's the greatest sports card, most iconic, there's actually not debate about the most iconic ticket. It's Jackie Robinson's debut. You're going to be very hard pressed to find someone arguing against that. There's 12 known graded copies, which is sort of crazy to think about because if you think about the 1932 World Series, there's like hundreds of graded copies. So I guess people were thoughtful to keep their World Series ticket stubs, but they didn't think much of, despite the fact they knew it was a big deal that Jackie Robinson was playing on the Dodgers roster, just didn't think to keep their tickets. Now, this copy is special for a handful of reasons. Firstly, it was at auction with SCP, and it was one of those auctions that went till 1 a.m. And a lot of times to buy items, I have to sell other items. Sometimes you got to give up the good to go for the great. So during the course of the night, every time I had to bid up, I went into my closet and grabbed a stack of $10,000 of autographs or cards or a game used jersey. And so on my dining room table by 1 a.m, when I was making the final bid, I was like, would I trade all this stuff? And a lot of it was doubles, thankfully. Would I trade all of this for this Jackie Robinson ticket? And the answer was yes. So I hit the final bid, and I actually went to bed not knowing if I won or not. At that point, I was kind of, capped. Woke up, won it. There's sort of like this panic when you win a big auction because, you've got this big invoice staring you down. But the guys at SCP were great to work with and got it done. And when it came, I wasn't focused on the fact that it was clearly adhered to an album page, because the back, when you look at it in the SCP auction history, it's just a blank back. And I assume, and so what I think happened was that it was graded and encapsulated so long ago that people really wouldn't think about, well, should I try to remove the back? And so what I did is I sent it to my friends at Heritage, and they've got a paper expert. Look, they're dealing with historical documents, and they were able to do just without damaging the ticket. They were able to see, like, yes, it's affixed to an album page, but it's not affixed throughout. Like, it was glued on with like a dot, and so they were actually able to remove the back of the album page. It was an authentic holder, and it crossed to a 2 once that album page, because it couldn't be numerically graded since it was affixed to an album page. And again, kind of that risk of, whether it be cracking a BGS or going from BGS to PSA or whatever it might be, took the risk and gave Heritage the okay to do what they needed to do. And this copy presents uniquely well. I have another copy that's a PSA 3, but this PSA 2 actually looks a little bit better because it's a little bit brighter of a ticket. These are, we talk about, museum worthy, and I think that term gets thrown around pretty loosely. This is, of the thousands of things in my collection, this is one of the small handful that actually is museum worthy.
Yeah, that's incredible. You've got one final piece I want to talk about before we wrap. Talk about museum worthy. This Michael Jordan jersey that you have on display. Tell me about this.
So the 1998 was the second round against the Charlotte Hornets. And before I kind of talk about some of the details of the game, I'll talk about the fact that I bought it during the 2018 National. So back in the day before the boom, the highlights of the National for many people were the auctions at night. So you'd get served, beef tenderloin and shrimp and a buffet, and you'd be there just live bidding in a room, raising your paddle between eating bites of beef. And the way Golden did it this year was they had online bidding, and then they paused the online bidding for 48 hours because then I think the final 30 items were going to be all done in person. And this was ultimately Golden, and they say that because of the result of this jersey, it went below estimate, that they realized we need to stop doing this auction at the National. Too many other fun things are happening at the National now to conduct an auction. So what ended up happening was it goes into the auction with, I think, a high bid at like 90,000. So a lot of the people in the room, this was actually the time too when people expected Jordan's 86 Fleer PSA 10 to make a huge jump. People were kind of predicting that this was the year a lot of stuff was going to really turn. It turned 2 years later, coincidentally. So people weren't wrong. They're just wrong on the timeline. So the estimate was that by the time this thing gets into the room for live auction, it's going to go for $250,000. So a lot of people just backed off. They weren't paying attention. So there were a handful of people. I was with a buddy who works coincidentally at the San Francisco Giants, who I previously referenced. And I was like, I've got 2 bids in this. I can bid the next bid, I can get outbid, and then I can make a final bid, and then I'm done financially, because it was going to be near $150,000, which at the time I still was going to have a hard time to scrape together and figure out how to do. The auction ended, and I won. And 2 of the guys who were pretty pronounced Jordan collectors at my table, they weren't even paying attention. And they go, what'd that go for? And I go, 137,000 all in. And they just started cursing. They were, what? Like, I totally would have bid. They just assumed the auction was going to be one of those ones that just goes on and on and on. If they wanted to put a bid at 200, they could have. It just ended. Allegedly, one of the phone bidders had technical problems. I was offered $25,000 the next day just to walk away from it. I'm glad I didn't. But shout out to the folks at Golden who allowed me to pay and figure it out with credit card and wires. This was early. This is 2018, before we understood the liquidity of this stuff. It's currently insured at $1 million. I've been offered $1 million. I've got a standing offer. And one of the reasons is, yes, he's got Eastern Conference Finals jerseys in the market. But this one's special because it was in Charlotte, near where he grew up. It was also Mother's Day. So the fact that his mother was in attendance, there's a clip of this in the Last Dance documentary. but also in one of the extended scenes from the Last Dance documentary, his mother was the Sunday conversation that day. So this wasn't really marketed as the Mother's Day jersey. If for some reason I try to upgrade to a finals jersey or something, this will be marketed as the Mother's Day jersey, the Last Dance, I think his second to last game in Charlotte. Just a very well documented jersey. In fact, in the movie Air, and again, it's only the version that was in theaters, they show one highlight of Jordan in a Bulls jersey, and it was this game.
Wow.
And because Air is so much about Dolores Jordan, I think it was 100% intentional that they used that game. So I got very fortunate both by the auction ending the way it did, but from the fact that there's a little bit more of a story now because of the Last Dance documentary and then the movie Air. And then, of course, I think Jordan's legacy and his mom's legacy now has become so much more well-known that, I kind of get goosebumps thinking about it.
That's absolutely incredible. What a story. What a collection. Patrick Ryan, this has been an absolute pleasure to be able to come here and check out such an iconic collection. I know the audience has really enjoyed it. And for those who want to learn more from you and see more of your items, is Instagram the best way for them to connect?
The PRyan Collection. I try to post interesting things that you might not see every day. Love to answer DMs and love to engage with collectors. And it's just been a very fun way to learn about the hobby as well.
And we're going to have you on the Geoff Wilson YouTube channel to talk more about your collection and some of the actual transacting of it, selling of items. So make sure to subscribe to the Geoff Wilson YouTube channel as well for more with Patrick Ryan. Thank you so much, Patrick. It's been a true pleasure, a true honor, and look forward to maybe doing some more of this again with you in the future.
Thanks for coming. Been a lot of fun and can't wait to do it again.
Absolutely. Take care.